Hello there folks, I'm Cartoon Karma. So, recently I had an urge to do something well outside my usual range of animation content, and I did a Pokemon challenge run of Gold and Silver, beating the game in the minimum number of battles possible, and without using items in battle. And honestly, even if it was easier than I thought it was going to be, I kind of loved it. So, I decided I'm going to do it again. That video took ages to make, so I want to do something that can crank out a bit quicker. With that in mind, folks, today we're going to find out what are the minimum number of battles to beat Pokemon Crystal with no items in battle. Crystal's an odd challenge run, and I say that despite it being my very first Pokemon game. Of all third versions and direct sequels, it's by a wide margin the least changed from its original pair. Most changes for Crystal are tiny and don't affect a challenge run, extra lore, battle animations, more ways to get items, that sort of thing. But there are differences that do affect it, mostly in the form of some previously mandatory trainers now being optional, and vice versa. If you're new to this, I'll go over the rules. We can only battle trainers necessary to progress, and have to run from all wild battles unless beating or catching is mandatory for progression too. No items in battle, they cheapen the run to the point of making it not a challenge. Only held items and items outside of combat are allowed, and no glitches or exploits. This isn't that kind of run. Even if I can predict a lot of this run based on the Silver run, I'm still writing the script as I go through the challenge. It's more fun that way. If you haven't watched that video, this one will still make sense. All callbacks will be explained. Without further ado, let's jump on in! As you might expect, we start Crystal out the same way we did with Silver, picking Totodile and resetting a few times for decent DVs, or starting stats, same thing. This time, I named him Toothless, because making a reference to design similarities between animated characters amuses me. All the early trainers up to and including the first gym leader Faulkner proceed identically, using Rage for the stronger opponents. Sometimes the luck was a little worse, but no big deal. But after that, we start noticing some changes. The one trainer on Route 32 can be skipped, and so can the Hiker and Fire Breather in Union Cave, which means we get to Azalea Town in only 5 battles. You think this would be good, but it means we don't know Water Gun when starting with the Rockets and Slowpoke well, which slows us down a bit. Not a big hindrance, and we learn it quick. It's a similar story in Azalea Dream, the trainers are easy enough. Bugsy is slightly more difficult and less lucky, but Rage still makes quick work of him. But now we have a problem. Because of the skipped trainers, we don't evolve before this rival battle. The weird evolution levels for the starters are a bane now. And for some reason, Totodile can't learn Fury Cutter until it evolves into Crocodile, so our Silver strategy for this tricky fight won't work. Still unable to boost Rage on Ghastly, we now have something we did not have in Silver. A fight that requires high luck to pass. I tried using the accuracy reducing Mud Slap to get past Bayleaf, but it just requires far too much good luck. Less than 1% to set up 4 Mud Slaps and then whittle it down. We just take too much damage from hits, and we can't survive more than one. But there are no other moves we can learn. What other strategy can we do? Unless... we may not have other moves, but we do have another Pokemon, Togepi, obtained as an egg after beating Faulkner. Unfortunately, the enemy AI is good enough to tell that Razor Leaf is a one-shot, so he always uses it, and we don't even get a chance to set up Mud Slaps. We're left with 2 choices, either keep trying Mud Slap with Totodile until we luck our way through, or walk an insane amount of steps to raise Togepi's friendship up so it can evolve from a single level up. Togetic gains a grass type resistance off its new flying type, and it can live a Razor Leaf off of its high special defense stat. But honestly, this took so much walking, it probably would have been quicker to just try the first strategy over and over, but this way is cooler. So, after rewinding the run to before Bugsy, and walking for several hours to boost Togepi's friendship up high enough, we evolve it off his Metapod. Now we're finally ready to put this strategy into action. It took a few tries, including one attempt where we got off 5 Mud Slaps and Toothless takes 1 Razor Leaf before Bayleaf falls, only for Zubat to finish off its remaining 10 HP. But after a few tries, we get this beautiful run where Bayleaf poisons us and we get off the 6th Mud Slap just before fainting. From there, Toothless wears Bayleaf down without getting hit once, and we're already full health. Zubat is no problem. Who would have thought that simply stripping a few battles out of the early game would make such a difference? The Silver run may have been largely easy, but we were often just strong enough to get by easily. Let's press on and see if there are any other battles where being slightly behind causes big troubles. Goldenrod is pretty much the same. We pick up the bike and the TNs for Return and Ice Punch, fight the underground trainers, the trainer in Whitney's gym, and then Whitney herself. Like with Bugsy, Rage is generally consistent, and though luck can turn the tide either way, from any double slap hits to power up Rage, to bad metronomes from Clefairy, Attract from Miltank, or flinches from Stomp, it's an okay battle. After picking up the Spearow as a flyer, we see an interesting change. We no longer need to go back to Violet City to approach Sudowoodo, as the mandatory trainers blocking the intended way north from Goldenrod now turn in place and can be avoided. It takes a lot of resetting, and you have to be step perfect to dodge some trainers, but it can be done. Besides which, we actually have to approach from this side in Crystal, as you can't get the Squirt Bottle until you talk to this lady here. Means we have to go through the spinner minefield 3 times to progress. Barely quicker than backtracking, but what can you do? The trainer right before Ecruteak spins too, so at this point, our battle counter is 4 less than in Silver. Because Crystal has some extra lore cutscenes to do with Suicune, the gym won't open without clearing a rival battle in the Burnt Tower that was optional in Silver. This time, thankfully, we have options for Bayleaf. It's best to beat the Kimono Girls first to get Surf for the extra firepower, and unlike in Silver, Ice Punch is very much our friend right after buying it. Surf's raw power atomized Haunter and Magnemite in one go, as does Ice Punch for Zubat. The rival's AI is terrible this battle. Even discounting the lucky freeze I got on Bayleaf first try, I did it some extra tries, and he never spammed Razor Leaf like he did back in Azalea. If Fury Cutter in Silver didn't already prove it, Ice Punch definitely proves that the right move can totally change a battle's tide. This extra battle with 4 Pokemon for valuable experience closes the level gap with Silver, so by the time we beat Morty, it's still being fine if we avoid Hypnosis Sleeping, we're at the same level. Here's another interesting change simply by shifting trainers around. Rather than a trainer we couldn't skip when backtracking, except by flying, now we have a mandatory one, so as such, we can freely move between the north hands of Johto after that fight. For variety compared to Silver, after doing that extra trainer and the Tree of the Lighthouse, I decided to do this side of Johto first this time. We're right on the heels of evolving, which is good, as there's 2 consecutive trainers in Chuck's gym, and our reduced power level means Hitmonlee and Hitmonchan actually hurt a good bit. Hitmonlee spams strong kicking moves, but once we evolve off it, Hitmonchan falls quickly. As for Chuck, you really notice the lower level compared to Silver. Primeape still falls easily, but we have no good moves for Poliwrath. Best strategy is to repeat cut and switch whenever he confuses us with Dynamic Punch or sets up Mind Reader, sacking another party member to reset confusion, or to let his accuracy lock expire. This took a few tries, but the trade-off is an easier Red Gyarados fight. I was curious to see whether our lower level would make Jasmine tougher too. It didn't, but that's only because I got great DVs in most of my stats. Without that, the Magnemites wouldn't have been one-shots, and Thunderbolts or Thunder Waves could have been problematic. Steelix managed to hang on and set up a sunny day, weakening Surf, but even with Jasmine using a Hyper Potion, it barely scratched us with Iron-Tail. Even as a Feraligatr, the Red Gyarados can be problematic if it spams Dragon Rage, but otherwise, it's not an issue. Goodbye mildly challenging mid-game, hello Cakewalk stretch. With these extra levels from leaving it till now, the Rocket Hideout is even more breeze than in Silver. Everything is a one-shot. It's even shorter, as 3 extra trainers can be skipped, 2 Scientists and a Grunt, though the Grunt is a tricky spare to avoid. After that, price barely puts a dent in us. As for the Radio Tower, a different layout adds 1 new Chick Grunt to the mix, making this quest of 22 trainers, and strategy-wise, it's difficult folks, believe me. We have to press the A button over and over, and sometimes up or down the D-pad to use Ice Punch or Slash instead. J-Rose was right, this is mad complicated stuff. Except for the rival, that's more normal. We can only pray, folks, that the game doesn't again require the excruciating effort of a strategy so intricate. The one trainer by the ice path is shifted, so entering Blackthorn Gym, we're at 5 battles less than Silver, though basically the same level, as most freshly skipped trainers were weak ones. The gym trainers in Claire are, well, Ice Punch and Slash are still our friends, let's put it that way. But after the gym battle, there's another curious change. The Dragon's Den adds an extra trainer, but the more notable thing is the new quiz that we answer to get us a badge. If we go back in after doing it, we're gifted with a Dratini. Very handy not just because it's free, but because it's no longer a Game Corner prize and we need it for Waterfall. Getting all the questions right gives it extreme speed as a move, worth having as backup. After the remaining rare candies are sourced, we're off to Kanto for the Pokemon League. Of the 5 trainers battled on the way in Silver, the first 4 are avoidable now, no joke. Only the last one still has to be fought. Thus, by the time we reach our rival and wipe him out, we're at 81 battles, 8 less than Silver, with those missed battles making us a level lower. Technically 12 trainers were skipped, but 4 new ones were mandatory. Will that level, and different luck, make this league run harder than in Silver? Let's dive in and see. Well, I wouldn't go for harder. Slightly different in places, but since they run the exact same teams, it's just incidental details. Will's last Xatu gets off decent damage from a Psychic, but he's otherwise a sweep. Koga's Ariados dodged 1 hit on Double Team, and Fortress tanked a few hits, but otherwise Koga was as easy, down to poisoning me on his last turn. As in Gen 1, Bruno is still the butt of a buff joke. This battle didn't go any differently, with only Machamp hitting for any notable damage. Cameron did go slightly different, however. Umbreon actually went for its Sand Attack Confuse Ray strategy, so after it set it up, I just sacked something else to reset those ailments and finished it off from there. Vileplume still can't hit a stun spore to save its life, and the rest were one-shots. And Lance, despite Gyarados being smart and going for Hyper Beam this time, fell as easily to my onslaught of Ice Punches and Surf. The best Dragonite wasted its survival on a Safeguard again, and he oddly sent out Aerodactyl last rather than Charizard, but the fight was identical otherwise. So, being a level lower didn't affect the Elite Four and Champion at all. At this point, we just have Kanto to blitz through, and getting these 8 badges doesn't have any trainer differences from Silver at all. There's nothing to the battles, virtually all one-shots what with our Skew Devil. I freshened it up by doing events in a slightly different order, including taking the machine part back to the power plant sooner. And there is something useful I did here that's helpful in Gold as well as Crystal. Like Gold, Crystal has no available Pokemon to learn Cut besides for Alligator. There's an optimal way to handle filling that Mooselet slot back up. After returning the machine part to the power plant, we drop by Copycat's house in Saffron and hear her bemoan her lost Clefairy doll in Vermilion. After we retrieve it from the fan club for her, we get a pass for the Magnet Train, allowing us to zip between Johto and Kanto freely. We only need Cut for the Celadon Gym and to come out of Diglett's cave. So after deleting Surf from the move deleter and teaching Cut, we earn that badge, get past that one tree and establish more flying locations, then reverse the process and relearn Surf. Handy stuff! The remaining gym leaders are a breeze, and even though I challenged Blue a badge earlier, and as Alakazam now outspeeds us and sets up a Reflect, it just wastes those turns with Recover. You know what they say, nothing can stop the Feraligatr. Before challenging Red, we do all the same steps we did in Silver, pumping in 3 to 4 of every vitamin to Toothless. The rare candy locations are still the same, down to the one before Mount Silver requiring Cut again before we overwrite it with Surf for good. Mount Mortar doesn't require Flash anymore, which is pretty dope. Sadly, the rare candy in Tin Tower is inaccessible, as it's blocked by a trio of sages that test you before you encounter Suicune. With 1 rare candy less and 8 less battles, we're facing Red 2 levels lower, at level 71. Will this 2 level deficit undermine us where a level with the Elite Four did not? Toothless looks game to me. After the Silver run, we have several viable, consistent strategies here. Let's see if the rest one, the most reliable strategy, remains so. The fight starts out similarly. Pikachu falls to a single return, and Venusaur is whittled down from Ice Punches. Oddly, it always goes for Solar Beam rather than Sunny Day here, so we only have to sack 1 party member to shield Toothless. But with Espeon we see a big change. The lower level means it outspeeds us now. Its Psychic does so much damage that we can't take 2. Sometimes it uses Reflect instead, and that's the ticket. If it uses Psychic first and I don't crit, the battle's lost. What I do is start with Surf, and if it uses Reflect, I switch and sack 3 more party members. This means that when Toothless takes a blow but ends it with Surf, Reflect ends just as Snorlax comes out. Snorlax simply cannot be beat with Reflect up without amazing crit luck. Perhaps sensing our low health, it sticks to Body Slam rather than starting with Amnesia, leaving us in the single digits going into Blastoise. At this point, it looks like we're in the clear. Rest can heal us against its weak attacks and we can squash it and Charizard. Except, not quite. Espeon's Psychic hit its small chance to drop our special defense. This means Blastoise's Surf does 50% more damage, a quarter of our health instead of a sixth. I could have just reset and tried again. That special defense drop is like getting a bad crit. But I wanted to try. No joke, I ended up rest doling out his Surf PP. Normally I can get off 1 return before using it again, but he crits during almost every snooze, so I kept having to rest again after landing on a tiny sliver every time. Eventually he runs out, and his inaccurate and weaker blizzards and whirlpools don't do much, so we can finish him. Finally, Charizard outspeeds us because of our poor speed DV, so it got off 2 flamethrowers. I prayed the last one wasn't a crit, and it wasn't, letting Toothless deliver the final Surf and defeating Red. What an ending! The battle requires a little luck to have Espeon use Reflect, but barring that 1 dice roll, the rest strategy is as consistent as it was in Silver, though our lower level means bad luck is harder to get around. But not impossible, as our struggle with that special defense drop proved. Only afterwards did I realise I could have sacked our last spare party member to reset that drop, but we got by anyway, and that's worth tons of style points. If we can do it with that hindrance, we know it's doable normally and consistently, and we didn't need leftovers in this game either. Extra stall points! You know, for a game where the minimum battles run was borderline identical to Gold and Silver, there were interesting differences. A lower level adding a small element of luck to Red certainly proves that. Still, the 4 trainers added to this game counterbalance the removed ones, so until that skipped quartet before Victory Road, we were basically the same level. But wow! Did this run prove how much the number of battles early on matters? That rival battle requiring us to friendship grind Togepi without a bike was such an unexpected, bizarre, and tedious strategy. The run may be easy, but that's a severe outlier. enough to make this the trickier run, though only by a sliver. Overall, though, excepting the Azalea rival, Red, and either Chuck or the Red Gyarados, Gen 2 runs are quite easy, even on a first try. There are just so many mandatory trainers that boost us to a satisfactory level, and for Alligator's wide moveset and buff stats cover most foes. Now, if there were a Pokemon game where most non-story trainers were avoidable, well, that would be difficult. And if we had to contend with nature's inabilities, and far less gift Pokemon to use HMs, it would be even more difficult. Perhaps there's a game like that? All joking aside, yes, the next minimum battles run will be for Ruby and Sapphire. Even before I've done the research, it is a lot more difficult than this. It's even trickier than Red and Blue. Maybe not Yellow, that one's migraine, but close, I'm sure. That's only the next challenge though. If there are other challenges you'd like to see, let me know on Twitter, Facebook, and down below in the comments. Comments do help the YouTube algorithm make the video find its way to more people and ghosts alike, after all. If you want to see more from me, I've done lots of videos on various cartoons, with more to come. Be sure to subscribe and ring the bell so you don't miss anything. And I have a Pokemon Challenges playlist, so check that out if you want to see all the ones already uploaded. Be sure to follow me on Twitter and Facebook. I'd love to hear how you found the channel. Thanks a lot for watching the video, and have a corking day. Until next time, folks.